Welcome to JustWannaQuilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. This is Elizabeth Townsend Gard, your host, and I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School and a faculty fellow at the A.B. Friedman School of Business at Tulane. And I just want to quilt. So today we're talking with more of Dr. Gard's students. And today our topic is crowdfunding. Can you say hello?
Hello.
Hello.
Awesome. Perfect. You guys are great. That's solved the problem. It's super great. All right. Here we go. So we are not on FaceTime anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, we solved the problem. We solved the problem.
You solved it?
Yeah. They're back on Zoom.
Back on Zoom, and Zoom's working now.
Okay. So tell me to begin. Oh, here, let's just make it. Okay. So you are part of Dr. Gard's class. Are you staying or are you going? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going.
You're going. All right. You're part of Dr. Gard's class, which is the New Media and Internet Studies. And we're going to be talking about crowdfunding, which I'm really curious to hear what you say about it, because we just finished this crowdfunding thing, and I don't know. I need some therapy session on it. But before we begin, tell me your for preservation purposes. Tell me your name, and you're both Tulane students, so you're calling from New Orleans. But tell me your name, each of you.
I'm Ananya.
And I'm Griffin.
Awesome. And can each of you tell me, do either of you have a memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life?
I was a Girl Scout, and so actually the way that I earned my bronze award was my troop quilted a lot. We made a lot of quilts for premature babies.
Really? You did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, tell me about that.
It was a really cool project. I was in 5th grade, I believe. Yep, I was in 5th grade, and we went and visited this hospital, and we were
This meeting is being recorded.
Hold on, sorry. Okay, we just had the backup. All right, so you're in 5th grade, and tell me more.
So for one of our trips, we decided to go visit a hospital, and we were in the NICU, and we saw all of these like little premature babies, and the nurse that was giving us our tour was talking about how they get cold very easily. And so I think one of our moms was like, we should make them blankets. And there was a point where we tried knitting blankets, and we were very terrible at it because 10-year-olds don't have that kind of hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
But then what we decided to do is we started quilting. And so each of us made, I think I made a dozen or so of these like tiny little like 12-inch by 12-inch square patches that I'd made by putting together like other little patches of fabric. And then we eventually took like all of our little 12 by 12 pieces and then sewed those together too to make these giant quilts for all these little babies.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then how did you get them to them? Did you go back, or did the grown-ups bring them, or sort of what happened to the quilts?
Yeah, we went back and we delivered them, and we got to like swaddle some of the little babies in our little quilts.
That's very cool. Well, charity quilting and quilting like what you did is a really big part of the quilting world. So that's interesting that you did that. That's really interesting. Awesome. And did you enjoy making the quilts?
Oh, I had so much fun. Like the ones that I made were absolutely awful.
Yeah.
But they're babies. They don't know.
They're babies, you know. Babies don't care. There's a really cool thing called Stitch TV, and their theme is babies don't care, because people get really freaked out about like it has to be perfect, and they have a little teeny onesie that says babies don't care, because babies really don't care about perfect stitching.
That's really cute.
Yeah, babies don't care. That's pretty great. Yeah. What did you do? No. How? Any experiences quilting or having someone in your life quilting or sewing, or you quilting or sewing?
Yeah, actually, someone in my life. My mom does quilting sometimes. She's interested in needlepoint.
Yeah.
That's not really so much quilting, but
No, but it's the same kind. I mean, it's craft work, and it's they're related. They're like cousins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she's created some pillows before, and she likes dogs a lot, so she just kind of. I'm not sure how she really does it. I'm pretty inexperienced in this area, but she made some pillows with dogs on it, and I like them a lot.
You do. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Cool. All right. So your topic was crowdfunding, and we just finished I think, sort of successful, but I'm not totally happy with the results, crowdfunding through the university. So before we begin, explain what crowdfunding is.
Yeah, so crowdfunding it's basically just an online medium, and where the entrepreneurs can get validation for their ideas and funding so that it can become a reality. Okay.
And when did this begin?
The most modern example of when it begun was in 1997, where a rock band from England actually raised money online for their reunion tour. And this was really the first example of crowdfunding in the modern sense.
So so was it online that they were doing this? Like, what makes it crowdfunding? Is it the online component, or is it that people give you a bunch of money? Like, what is it? Tell me more.
It's the crowdfunding is that anyone can participate. So a big draw of crowdfunding is the community aspect, where anyone can really send money and be a part of any community that they want to.
Interesting. And now crowdfunding has taken off in this like crazy way. So I remember it must have been, let me think back. Must have been around, I was at Tulane already, so it must have been 2011, maybe 2012. I'm not sure when Kickstarter starts, but I'm at a conference. Oh, crap. I'm at a conference that people are, sorry, just hold on one second. There's one small, tiny emergency. 1 second. So I'm there, and the Kickstarter people there, and they're trying to get people to sign up. So they're like, oh, well, your thing will be great because, on Durationator. And we didn't do it at the time because we weren't ready. But they were like trying to find projects because it was a whole new thing. And that was really kind of funny and interesting, So yeah. So now Kickstarter is a huge thing. And there's lots and lots of different kind of crowdfunding things. So tell me a little bit about like the top 3 ones that you found.
So the top 3 ones that we were looking at were Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Kickstarter is kind of unique as a platform because it does have the aspects where you can pledge a certain amount and receive a specific reward for it.
Yeah.
It tends to focus on more creative projects versus Indiegogo tends to be a little bit more tech focused. And GoFundMe is a lot of individual and personal causes. With GoFundMe campaigns, you see a lot of people trying to raise money for medical bills, tuition, things like that.
Interesting. All right, so let's start with with Kickstarter. So Kickstarter, you have to get to your pledge goal to get the money. Is that right? Is that still true?
Right.
So people do it like kind of a small amount, and it's like the goal is to get over it so that they look super successful. Is that right?
Yes, that tends to be the goal.
Yeah. And tell me about the business plan. How much does Kickstarter take of when you do it? How does it work exactly?
I think Kickstarter takes about 5%. They might have a tier system where it depends on how much money you raise.
Yeah.
But generally they take 5% of the money raised, and that's the fee that they put on projects that reach their goal.
Yeah.
If you don't meet your goal, however, then donors are never actually charged.
Right. So this is a problem. And this was early on, people didn't realize it. Now it's, so that's really interesting. So they only have a 36% success rate. I'm looking at their stats on their thing. So right now they say there are 427,000 projects launched, $4 billion. Successful dollars is $3.5 billion. Unsuccessful is 417 million. And 3,500 live projects, and the success rate is 36%. I'm surprised at that. Are you surprised that the success rate is only about a third?
Well, it's interesting that that you say that, because we were looking at a lot of the bigger projects on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Ones that like become very popular in the media. They have a lot of issues, and like mobilizing, from ideating this idea to like a reality. It's very difficult, and especially with the big ticket items. There was this one that we were looking at called the Coolest Cooler, and it's like it's an all-inclusive cooler with a Bluetooth speaker, a margarita mixer, and it's pretty interesting, I think, and it received over 13 million in funding.
Whoa, that's craziness.
But the problem with this project was that there were huge delays, and the people that were donating money were getting very upset. And the creator actually ended up selling them on Amazon before shipping all the pre-orders. So
really, that doesn't seem like good. That's not good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it can get a little messy.
Now, when does Kickstarter? What if you don't get your stuff out? Does Kickstarter get upset? Oh, here, can Kickstarter refund the money? Does not issue refunds. The transactions are between backers and creators. That's interesting.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Kickstarter does have an accountability feature.
Yeah.
So creators are obligated to deliver when their project has been funded.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at their website and see if there is any action taken, and it looks like they have a trust and safety team that reviews any projects that are flagged. So if you as a community member back a project and don't receive what you were expecting to receive out of this, it looks like you have the ability to flag the campaign, and then Kickstarter will perform a full review. It doesn't detail what happens if the creator is found guilty of
it looks like the most they can do is revoke or suspend the account, because they're really just a platform. They're not, right? They're not.
They don't really have the ability to get that money back, though.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting. Did you find any weird stories about like scams or anything like that? Like, is there do people mostly deliver on the stuff that they put up for Kickstarter?
Generally speaking, with Kickstarter and the more mainstream platforms like Indiegogo and GoFundMe as well, people do deliver. Mm-hmm. There have been a few other platforms. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a Russian platform that got shut down in the early 2010s because of its illegal activity, where backers were constantly putting money up and creators were consistently not delivering on what they would deliver. And so because of that, the entire website got shut down.
Interesting. Because it was more scammy. And so people yeah, interesting.
So I think there is a good amount of faith in the system, generally speaking. I think because of that, creators do feel the need to deliver.
Yeah. That's just part of the thing. That's interesting. Okay, and it's not for charities. It's for, as you said, creative things. Talk about, how is Indiegogo different?
Indiegogo's not too different from Kickstarter. Do you want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, sure. Indiegogo is more, it's more focused on products and having the latest, most innovative products. So if just at like a quick glance on their website, a lot of it is just, wearable technology, and new innovations. And it's a little bit different from Kickstarter because you see a little bit of a different mix of projects. And Kickstarter releases funds only after the campaign receives its funding goal. But while the Indiegogo has the flexible funding, so it's a little bit of a different platform.
Right, and what I've heard is that in some way it's great because if you only get a percentage of it, you can you still get it. But that it also there's no incentive. Like people aren't like part of Kickstarter is like people are like, please help us because we need to get to our goal or we won't get any of the money, and that incentive isn't there with Indiegogo. And so sometimes people feel like they're not getting as far as they wanted to get, kind of thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. That being said, I think with Kickstarter, it's definitely like high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
I think Indiegogo provides an opportunity, especially when you look at the kind of products that they have on this site. They're generally more tech focused. So if you can get a certain amount, like a reasonable amount of backing from an Indiegogo campaign, you can generally prove to other investors that this is a worthy tech product of being invested in.
It's so interesting. Okay. Cool. Interesting. Very interesting. And how long are these campaigns usually up for? Do you get a sense of how long people do it for?
Oh, it totally depends. These campaigns can range from 2 weeks to 24 months is the longest that I've seen.
Interesting. 24 months. That's a long time. Interesting. Okay. And then the other one is GoFundMe. So tell me how GoFundMe is different from these.
GoFundMe works in a similar way to Indiegogo as far as the funding. You don't have to reach your entire goal for you to receive that money. But that being said, GoFundMe just appeals to an entirely different audience, while Kickstarter and Indiegogo are definitely more creative, tech, product focused. GoFundMe tends to have more individual and personal causes on their site.
Yeah.
So I think I mentioned this before, but we see a lot of people looking to pay their medical bills.
Yeah.
We see a lot of people who are just trying to raise money for community members,
right?
In terms of like paying tuition, help with paying bills, help with paying taxes, and like things like that.
Yeah.
There's no return on your investment necessarily, where with Kickstarter, you pledge a certain amount of money and then you get a t-shirt or a mug or a piece of stock in return. And with Indiegogo, at least when you pledge that money, you know that there's a product that's going to be available for you to purchase eventually.
Yeah.
But with GoFundMe, it's generally just like it employs narrative to ask people to essentially open their hearts and their wallets because they're not getting anything in return.
It's amazing. And so I imagine it's really good if like there's some problem that you could post it, and if it's either national or local, that it gives a way to raise money. Now, did you find that there were like scams or people worry about that with GoFundMe?
Generally speaking, no. I think that there was an initial skepticism when they got started, but I think we've come so far away from that. There was a story pretty recently, I think it was over the summer though, where a couple did raise money they supposedly raised money for a homeless man, and when GoFundMe gave them that money, like it did seem like their intentions were initially to give this money to this homeless man, but then I guess maybe they got greedy because they raised a considerable amount of money, and they actually wound up pocketing about half of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there were charges pressed against them. There was an entire case. And so I think because of the way GoFundMe does this, like this money doesn't just disappear into thin air or like go into production the way it does with the other two sites. So there is a little bit more opportunity for recourse and action if somebody tries to use that GoFundMe money selfishly.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so it seems like there are the different steps of like if you do Kickstarter, we'll thank you or whatever, or the product. And then Indiegogo, you're actually getting the product most of the time. And then GoFundMe, no product, just like good citizen giving money to some sort of cause. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Now, did you interview so we have Wavestarter, which I am not totally convinced of at school. So Tulane has a thing called Wavestarter, and it's more like GoFundMe. You can't give any kind of rewards, and it's just sort of like you just donate when you feel like You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of donation thing. So, and then the university pays the credit card fees. That's kind of the deal. So tell me, you interviewed, was it Tyler, is it Martin? Morgan, how do you say it?
Yeah. So he was the vice president of finance for our Tulane's undergraduate student government for 2 years. He did just graduate this past May. And so as VP of finance, one of his goals for his second term was to get a crowdfunding platform started so that essentially we would have a platform for Tulane by Tulane.
Yeah.
And so he was definitely successful in doing that. He worked with Scale Funder. And then we kind of talk about how Scale Funder is very similar to OrgSync. I don't know if you know.
No, what is Scale Funder? Tell me that.
So it's not a crowdfunding platform in itself, but it provides the tools that you need to sort of generate your own platform. So it's sort of like Squarespace or Wix or so any other website building platform.
Right. It's Scale Funder is for universities and nonprofits.
Right.
That's interesting.
So that they can generate like institution-specific crowdfunding platforms.
Right. And the Girl Scouts are using it, and a bunch of universities are. That's interesting. Now, do they have, so my question is, they have Giving Day and then Crowdfunding Day. I'm still confused as to, all right, I'm looking at it. Okay, so tell me a bit more. What was his take on Wavestarter? What did he say? What did he think it was? Why did they create it? Like, what kind of things did he think would be happening at it?
All right. So when he created it, he actually had a very specific goal in mind. One of the things that he'd been working on for years before he'd even gotten into this position was sort of getting everything set up so that Tulane could build its own recording studio.
Yeah.
And so in his first term, he he got a lot of the money for this project by asking alumni donors and seeking department funding and things like that. And he actually raised about $400,000.
Wow.
Just by doing that. But he kind of like hit a wall where he couldn't ask anymore. There were no more alumni, there were no more departments to ask for these large donations, and he still needed to raise a little bit over $100,000. And so he thought the best way to do that was to do it through crowdfunding, but also didn't feel like it made sense to do it through another platform. And then that's why he started working with Scale Funder to get Wavestarter going. That way, all the credit card fees and all the infrastructure of creating the site itself came out of the student activities budget. And so that way the university was spending money on this. It wasn't the recording studio having to pay those fees on their own.
Yeah.
And so once he had all of that infrastructure in place, he did manage to use Wavestarter to fund the rest of this project. So he raised, again, a little bit over $100,000 in just using Wavestarter.
That's amazing.
But when he did launch that, there were a few other projects that started using Wavestarter immediately after it was opened, along with the recording studio. One of these organizations was Jazzbo, which is our Bollywood dance team. They are like a Bollywood fusion dance group, and so they were trying to raise funds to head to a competition in Alabama, and just because of the team that they are, they were not able to raise that money. And so they turned to Wavestarter and then actually wound up raising all of the money that they needed for transportation and lodging and things like that so that they could go attend this competition.
And who are the people, like in that example, who were the people giving for that one? Was it parents?
It's mostly Tulane students, a lot of really small donations. I think they raised something like they raised nearly 10 grand for this trip. I remember this happening. And this was all coming from really, really small donations of between $5 and $15 from just a really large number of students.
And what made them successful, do you think? Like, how did they get people to be interested in supporting it? Was it friends and family? Did they do a lot of social media? Sort of what made it successful?
Right. It was definitely a lot of social media campaigning at that time. I think another example of someone who's done this really well is NJ Beats, which is an a cappella group on campus. Actually did a really great job raising the money that they need to go to a competition in this spring. I believe they've already raised all the money that they need. And that was through a really aggressive social media campaign. And I think that that's kind of one of the issues with Wavestarter, generally speaking, because it's so limited to this like Tulane audience, where if you're not looking at the Wavestarter page, you have no idea what campaigns are on there and available for you to donate to. And so because of that, like the burden of publicizing the campaign definitely lies on the organization that's trying to raise funds. And so NJ Beats specifically put in an incredible amount of work publicizing it through Facebook events and an entire social media campaign across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to make that happen.
And again, you think it's Tulane people giving to, like, they're not getting as many external, it's not going wide like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo. It's still...
It's not going very wide. I mean, they do, when you do run this campaign through Facebook, sometimes you get friends from home who are donating, sometimes you get family members, but the donations do still tend to stay small, and it's not reaching a very wide audience. It's still generally friends and family.
Interesting. Super interesting. So did you get a sense of what makes a successful crowdfunding campaign? Like, do you have tips or thoughts about it, having studied this?
Yeah. So a lot of the successful crowdfunding pages have a really good backstory and also have this community aspect. So you see with a lot of projects that they have this $1 donation tier or some very small amount, so that as many people as possible can engage in the community. And I think that's a really important aspect. And also, again, going back to the story, people that are donating to this, they care a lot about the backstory, and especially, I would say, more on GoFundMe, where you see the individual causes. What's going on behind the project is really important for people that are going to donate.
Yeah, narrative is just incredibly important to making donors feel connected to the cause that they're donating for. Generally, the more information that you can provide, the better. Some of the more successful campaigns that we've seen on GoFundMe especially have just an incredible amount of backstory. They really explain who they are, why you should donate to them, what makes them a worthy cause, because there are so many causes that you could deem worthy on these sites.
Hugely.
So it's generally the ones that have more of a story behind them that raise money quickly.
Very interesting. And did you get a sense of sort of what kind of products, like on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, is it the product that's selling it, or is it their big social network that they have before they begin? Do you get a sense of, what's making it successful?
On Indiegogo, you said? Sorry.
Either Indiegogo or Kickstarter. Do they start out with a social media, like, do they already have a crowd to crowdfund, or is it because they have a really cool thing? Sort of, how does it work exactly,
I think it tends to be a combination of those, but generally with Kickstarter, anything novel, really. If it's interesting enough, people will donate to it. Like, it doesn't even have to be a real product. I mean, there have been some really cool products that have been sort of supported by Kickstarter. But there's also things as ridiculous as, I don't know if you've seen the potato salad campaign.
No.
It's kind of curious. This guy, Zach Danger Brown, actually started a campaign for potato salad. It's titled Potato Salad. The description is, I'm making potato salad. And at the very end, where you have to list risks and challenges, he says it might not be that good. It's my first potato salad. Like,
I like that.
Like, he's only engaging with the humor of it, but his goal was $10, and he raised over $55,000 for
that's
this.
so insane. What was he giving people to? Let me take a look. What was he promising people?
If you look at the pledges, you could pledge $1 to get a thank you posted to his website, and he said he would say your name out loud while making the potato salad. But it goes all the way down to you could pledge $110 to get the platinum potato, which is the recipe book, the t-shirt, the hat, a bite of the potato salad, a photo of him making the potato salad, along with a thank you and him saying your name out loud while making the potato salad. And the thing is, there's 21 people that decided to donate 110.
That's so insane.
There's nearly 600 people who decided to donate 35. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And which is above his goal of $10.
Yeah.
But it's just the way that he uses humor and how completely novel and ridiculous this idea is. So if you can put a tech product out there that's just as ridiculous, people will fund it just out of curiosity.
Yeah,
really.
I see what you're saying. It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and also Kickstarter does this thing where they can select their favorite projects, and they'll put a little I'm not sure what you would call it, but they get put in there's a selection of their favorite products that they put at the front of the website,
and that makes a huge difference.
So that's just another thing to help spread a campaign.
Yeah, so that if you're lucky enough to get in there, that probably helps hugely to get you to what you need to do. Interesting. All right, so any advice on using this? So I think we might try it again at some point. I think we had so much going on. That was part of the problem. We were at Houston, and we had a giveaway going on, and all kinds of stuff. I mean, we still raised about $1,100, but I think it could have been better. I don't feel like we succeeded tremendously, you know. I thought it was okay, and I think part of it was because I think we would do better in a Kickstarter space where we were incentivizing by having stickers and other things, you know. I think it was more that than because we were kind of, and also I don't think we had a clear enough goal. I mean, we did have a goal, but it was a hard goal to explain to people. So I think that would be something to think about for next time too. Yeah, I don't know. Any other ideas of how to make a successful campaign? Anything else we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how most of these success stories definitely rely on narrative or humor. If you can't find a way to connect your donors to the project by telling them a story and making them feel connected to your quilting, then I think maybe making the campaign funny would be a good strategy. And that being said, I believe Wavestarter doesn't have the option to offer rewards and incentives the way Kickstarter
that was part of the problem. But we didn't realize that until
in the past, acapella groups have made promises in terms of saying things like, well, if we reach our goal on Wavestarter, we'll do a free concert. And so that's not as individualized in terms of the incentives that you can offer with Kickstarter. But I mean, there might be a way to say if you donate above this amount, you can be entered in a drawing for this specific quilt or something like that. So it's not, it's still not as personalized, and you don't get to pick your incentive the way you do with Kickstarter, but it might be an effective way of giving people a reason to donate and sort of having them, giving them something that they could get out of donating. Yeah, no,
I think that seems to make a lot of sense. I think that was part of the problem that we had was we didn't really realize, I really envisioned it more like Kickstarter. And so, but we didn't hear that it wasn't Kickstarter till about 2 days before, because I said, well, can we just give them beads or stickers or something really silly? And it wasn't until about 2 days before it started that finally the university lawyer said no. So we really had conceived of it as incentivizing them. If you give $5, you get X. And so I really just thought it more of Kickstarter. It was more like GoFundMe. And so it was kind of this scramble to sort of think, okay, well, how do we fit this in? Because now people just have to give because they want to support our weirdness, you know? And so,
Right.
yeah. So,
and especially with JustWannaQuilt, I do think a platform like Kickstarter makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can offer those incentives. And that way, if you're generating a significantly larger amount of money anyway, because you're able to offer those incentives, then it might make sense to be paying that 5% fee.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we know if the 5% fee is on top of the credit card fee?
I do not know. But I definitely think JustWannaQuilt would exist really well on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because again, you could tap into a larger community, and also you'd have the reward tiers for donators. I think that's a major draw, definitely for crowdfunding.
Okay, so here's what it says. It says 5% of the total fund raised is the Kickstarter fee, and then you have additional fee of if the payment processing is 3% plus 12 cents per pledge.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's about 8% you're losing, but you're also getting the platform of Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm actually kind of curious to see if I can reach out to our current VP of Finance and see if there's a way for us to change this platform a little bit so that it is more like Kickstarter and more effective.
It's so interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering too, because if you go to Wavestarter now, that people are having the same problems that we are. That we were not the only ones that were about a third of our funding. Does that make sense? It's weird.
Right. I think generally, though, I think the expectation with Wavestarter was also not that students would be offering products or services.
Yeah.
And so because of that, the incentive doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Because
there's right, so if they're just raising money for, right, that there shouldn't be an incentivizing. But I was surprised because I felt really kind of bad about our experience because we got to about 38% of what we were expecting. But now when I'm on here, a lot of them are at about 38%, 42%, you know, and I'm curious sort of how do you make it more, I mean, you've told stories that are really about super successful and that's super great. And maybe it's just not as interesting, you know, like, I don't know. It's confusing to me is all I'm saying. So how do you, like the Shockwave dance team, they raised $3,700 for a $10,000 campaign. And they had 44 sponsors, which is good, but they didn't get to their goal. And I'm curious, again, how do you incentivize people to donate? And is that something, maybe that's just something that can't happen? I mean, I don't know. So it's interesting. The one that got me was the dog one. So the puppies, the service dogs, they only got to 1,500 out of the goal was 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, like, puppies, like, who wouldn't give to puppies, you know?
Right.
Right?
I think that, again, the barrier is that that you only have this Tulane community, and
right.
And while it can be large, it is limited.
Yeah.
You know, whereas on Kickstarter or these other platforms, really, you know, anyone can donate and gives you greater exposure.
Well, and they can, I mean, the thing is that we did do an external one, right? So JustWannaQuilt did it, and we tried to get the quilting ladies donated, our quilting army, and so we did get donations, but it wasn't, I don't know. So it's interesting.
The thing with Wavestarter is it definitely places the burden of advertising your campaign on you. With Kickstarter, like, again, like there are options where if they think that you have a really great product, like they will help you publicize.
Yeah.
Wavestarter doesn't have that kind of option at all. And so because of that, like it's completely up to the organization that's trying to raise funds to generate that publicity and generate that buzz so that people want to donate.
Right.
And so I think it's maybe not even switching your platform, but working on the way that you advertise and the way that you sort of circulate your campaign so that it's not just reaching the quilting community, but maybe reaching a larger community would help.
Now here's the other one. This is the one that's on that I think that's super interesting. So here's one that is the marching band trying to raise $5,000. They have 11 days left, and they've raised $51.
Wow. Yeah.
I know, right? They've only had... Yeah, it looks like they have support. They've had 3 supporters, but they've had more than that because they have like 5 or 6. They have 6, but it says 3. And they're supposed to, like, they have a thing where it's like $10, 1 doubloon. So you get to sort of help choose the music. It's like kind of a little convoluted about which song they're going to play or whatever. But, I mean, so I don't know. Like, I don't know. I can't quite... Like, I hear the success stories, and that's so awesome. I don't see them right now, you know?
I actually think this one, the marching band project, is actually pretty interesting. It has this interactive doubloon counter.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's kind of what the Wavestarter is lacking, but
right.
Unfortunately,
so they're trying to do it, right? So they've only gotten 5 people to do it. Yeah. And I like that idea and they've got 11 days left. And this other one, which is the peer mentor program, that looks like it's from, they're doing it for a really long time. 82 days left. But again, they've only raised $289 out of 10,000. It's weird, right? Do you think it's weird? I think it's kind of weird.
I do think it's strange.
Yeah, like something's not working. I mean, I think it worked at the first, right? The ones that you just, but it's not working now. And I'm not sure why. I think generally the
groups that are successful on here already have a large enough base of supporters. So the platform is just the way for them to collect the money.
Right, that it's not it's not adding to it, it's just giving them a platform, maybe. That's a good way to look at it. It's weird, though. It was a weird experience because we worked really hard for that $1,000. And we couldn't do anything except be like, hey, can you give us... It was kind of pathetic in some way, right? Because it was very much more GoFundMe of like, hey, please... And what we were trying to say was like... And then I'll let you guys go because we've talked longer than we're supposed to. But what we were trying to do is say, hey, if we can pay for the platform, then you can have a consignment shop. We don't have to charge anything for it. The students are going to run it. It's like this thing that will be really awesome. And it was really hard to explain to people that concept. Like they couldn't understand that concept. And yet it was a really good idea to sort of be able to say, hey, we can raise this money. We need $1,500 for the year to have the platform, to do whatever we want to do on this platform. But it was very difficult. And there was no incentive. There was no like, I will give you a sticker. I don't know. It was weird. I mean, it's this experiment, so it's all good. But I think I'm ready to try another one. Probably Kickstarter. You know?
Yeah, I think Kickstarter is probably a better platform for what you're trying to do.
But if you find out more, I mean, I'd be really curious. And I'd like to know their metrics, right? I'd like to know sort of how many... The other thing I was really surprised at with it, because I think it's a great idea and a great platform, is how few things are on there. You know, there's not that many going at any one time. And so it's not really part of the culture either. That, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing from... There should be more of them. So, I don't know. Right. It's weird, right?
I think, yeah, from like a general standpoint, I think not too many people know about Wavestarter.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, from students and alumni. I think if Wavestarter were a bit more prevalent on campus, and a little bit more well-known, I think then it would bring more people in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see an alumni base that actually knows about Wavestarter. So that way, if they have funds that... I mean, there's so many business school alumni that just love to throw money at the B school. So if they were looking at Wavestarter and trying to see where the need on campus actually is, instead of just generally throwing money at certain institutions, that might actually be a more effective way for them to even feel like they're donating to something specific.
Yeah. No, I think it's all very interesting. I think it's really interesting how it started. I'm really interested about sort of where, you know, how it had early success and sort of what happens next to it. So I really appreciate you doing more research and learning more about it because I didn't quite know. I found it where I'm sitting, it seemed weird, but I think that it's just because it hasn't quite found what its next road is now that its a leader has graduated. I think it needs, it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we persevered through all kinds of things. It was great. This interview was awesome. I really appreciate you thinking about these things. It's such an important part of our world at this point,
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. Were there any other questions you had for us? Anything else
I think we did it. I think we did it completely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Take care. Thanks again.
All right.
Bye. So you've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. And I'm Elizabeth Townsend Gard. If you like this podcast, keep listening. Also, we have a Facebook group. Come join us. We talk about a lot of things. We also have an Instagram account. And of course, most importantly, I really hope you get a chance to quilt today.